All right. So what's poll question today, Seton? At least first hour.
Yeah, first hour. Let's see. Paulie sent over, if I were on the college football committee, my rationale would be team resume or team's chances to win a title.
Okay. So Florida State, without their star quarterback, they are now fifth. It almost felt like if you weren't going to make the move now, like if Florida State just hangs in there, I don't know if the college football committee is going to want them in the Final Four. And I say this every year at this time. It is a made-for-TV event. You want to have people who are going to watch the game. You know, Jordan Travis got hurt. He's a wonderful quarterback. And now, do you penalize them? Now, I would penalize them because they just beat who? Northern Alabama.
North Alabama, Dan.
No, not even Northern Alabama.
Yeah, just North.
North Alabama.
So
Alabama, that's who they beat.
Teams like the SEC teams and Florida State and the ACC teams, they do that cupcake game before the rivalry game.
Yeah.
And the committee talked about that. It is a flowing strength of schedule. It's a flowing resume. And, Washington Huskies played a good team last week in a shootout. And then you play North Alabama in 58-13. That does not help you with the committee.
Washington should be ahead of them. I think we look at the Pac-12 and we go, they're on their last legs, but they have strength of schedule. Like that's a really, really competitive conference there. And I think Washington should benefit from that. Yes, Todd.
Did someone ask, or should have someone asked the Norvell, the coach of Florida State, why would you schedule North Alabama at this point in the season when you could possibly be in a college football playoff situation?
Well, it might have been before he got there. I'm guessing.
I think it's funny that Florida State is the one team that's being dinged for playing a weak team.
Yeah, they all do.
Yeah, welcome to college football.
No, welcome to the SEC. The SEC was going to add a 9th conference game, and they're like, no, we want 8 so we can schedule some of these, cupcakes. Pac-12 doesn't do this. Big Ten doesn't do this. SEC does it. Now, they benefited from it because usually when you have a tough game leading up to that, you have a cupcake. And Florida State was trailing in that game early. Then they lose their quarterback. And if they win out, are they going to stay? Will an undefeated team not be in the playoffs? If a one-loss team, let's say Georgia loses to Alabama, close, but they have one loss. Let's say Ohio State, let's say Michigan loses one loss, close game to Ohio State. Do they stay in or vice versa? That's what I'm curious about. Yeah, Paulie.
And also, like you said, if Alabama happens to beat Georgia, even by a point, it's hard to picture that Alabama not being propelled into the Final Four. They're dying to put Oregon in, the way Oregon's played the past month.
Yeah, and you got maybe the Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, it's like Florida State has a very high possibility to be jobbed here in 2 weeks.
Well, every year. And this is the last year. But I was looking at the rankings here, the number of teams that would be involved in the race for those 12 spots. It's pretty spectacular. I mean, I'm a big proponent of the 12-team playoff. I don't think it renders the regular season worthless. I think, if anything, it makes these games now even more important, whereas in previous years, it might not matter. Where you're at the end, you're going, you got no shot. Now you have a chance. And you're on the outside looking in. A couple things happen. Maybe you squeeze in there. But you're going to have the same schools. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan. They're always going to be there. There's 12 teams, 12 schools. They're always there. It's the other schools that maybe get that chance just to get into the playoffs. That's all you want. Hey, we got into the playoffs. Now let's build off of that. Yeah, Paulie.
Yeah, that second tier of teams, the 9, 10, 11, 12, will be the rotating teams. Like right now, Missouri could be in. It would be in a 12-team playoff. If the playoffs were right now, Missouri would be playing at Michigan in a first-round game. That's saucy.
Yeah.
Yes. Ole Miss is right now the 12th seed. Imagine Ole Miss at Georgia. Man, that may not work out.
Well, no. We've seen that before.
Yeah. But, Oklahoma's still alive. LSU would still be alive.
Yeah, that's what I think is going to be fun. So these games mean something. Whereas, Ole Miss has to have an impressive win Friday against Mississippi State just to make sure that they stay in there. So I'm a big proponent of those games. The later games in the season will mean more. Yes, Marv.
Now, this might have might have an issue with this right here, because there might be a team that just squeaks in that ends up winning a national title, a la 97 Marlins or any other wild card team, where his issue with baseball is the two best teams all year should play for the national title. See, and correct me if I'm wrong, where your irritation level might be through the roof.
Yeah, I don't know that my irritation level is through the roof, but if we want to add more meaningful games to this schedule, the first thing you could do is get rid of the meaningless ones that are already there.
Yeah, the cupcake one.
Yeah, I mean that's an easy way to have the games mean more. But there's a clear difference. This is a much larger conversation that we've had many times, but there's a clear difference between the Alabamas and the Notre Dames of the world than the bottom part of all of those conferences. And there's no reason that those people should be playing each other anymore.
There's no scheduling oversight committee. But in 5 years, I truly believe that you're going to have these power conferences, secede from the NCAA. And then maybe they're just playing each other. Then maybe you get the model, and there's going to be revenue sharing. I mean, I had a long conversation with a college source last night. He said it's happening. It's going to happen. The question is, when does it happen, and what's the structure look like? The Power 5 conferences will secede from the NCAA. Yeah, Paul.
Right, because if they did that, you wouldn't have Alabama play in Chattanooga. You wouldn't have Florida State. Imagine Florida State playing a really good team, even like a BYU last weekend, a nice quality college football opponent, and that's on TV. You're going to get more revenue for that game. There are more eyeballs on that game, more ratings, more money with a better schedule.
Yeah, Seton.
And again, I know we've hit it a million times, and I know it's a soccer thing, but let South Dakota State win their way into play in that power conference. Let the top 4 win their way in, and then the other couple drop out.
I love it.
Just go back to having regional conferences, and the best teams move on to a more national type league where the biggest teams are playing each other, and the teams that win their way in and the ones that lose their way out lose their way out. The sport would explode even more than it already has in this
Because
country.
you would have that game that you didn't care about, and you would watch it because that team is either staying or that team is relegated.
It's the most important game of the season for you.
Yes, I'm all for that. Give these, North Dakota State or South Dakota, give them an opportunity to move up.
Absolutely.
I think it would be great.
And you move up and you get more money, and you move
Yeah.
down and you lose some money.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem. That's the struggle.